Welcome, everybody. We are honored and privileged, Sugat and I, to be able to host a conversation about harnessing the power of empathy to improve mental health. So Sugat, thank you for being my co-host here, and thank you for coming up with the idea to do this. So I will turn it over to you to actually give the introduction you wanted to get the conversation started.
Sure. Thank you, Kasturi, for setting up. I know we started discussing this over the weekend, and I'm glad that you managed to set this up. And so coming out of one pandemic of COVID, we did an excellent job of distancing ourselves socially, and we managed to come out of COVID by distancing ourselves. But I think that kind of creating another pandemic, which is everyone is getting into the health and mental pandemic, we might be hitting a different way. And I think that one of the ways we got out of COVID was by being responsible, by helping each other. I was wearing a mask so that you don't get the COVID, or I was distancing yourself so that we both don't get each other. Like how we got out of that pandemic. And I think we all need to get together here to get out of the potential of another pandemic, or it's already a pandemic. That's what Siva say when I say it might be coming soon, but he says that it's already. And how do we get out of this? By helping each other. And one of the easiest way, or one of the better way to help each other is be empathetic, and that's something we always try to practice, and we always try. But I like I was talking to you, Kasturi, we have a lot of coaches who coach people to be better speakers. I think we need more people who can coach people to be better listeners. And and I have never seen, or I have never heard saying that, and someone saying that, hey, come to my class, I will teach you how to be a listener. And everybody want to teach, and we have a lot of information. So if somebody is sharing with you something, there is a tendency for you to respond, and people are sharing with you because they just need a shoulder, and you have to listen. And I think when you come to listening, we just follow what the kindergarten teacher told us, right? I mean, just keep your mouth shut, keep your ears open. That's all. You don't have to respond every time, and then try to understand why the person is talking to you, and try to get into his kind of a situation, and analyze. And I think we need to just kind of, it's not necessarily always respond, just listen. And it is hard. It's hard sometimes, when someone is explaining to a condition, and if somebody come and walk to you and say, hey, my daughter or son is going through this medical condition, the tendency to immediately tell that, oh, my uncle's second son's daughter also had the same condition, they did this and this. They're not coming to you for medical advice. You're not a medical professional. If you're not a medical professional, they want to share their condition at that time, and listen to them and understand from them, and if you have information later on, respond. But when someone talk to you, just learn to listen. I think I'm a big follower of, like, listen to people. When someone is talking to you, listen to them, understand from them why they're talking to you. Are they talking because they're expecting you to respond, or they just want a shoulder to cry, rather? And that is kind of the trigger, which when I contacted, when I saw this 1010, I know it's not 1010 in Australia and Singapore, but it is still 1010 in North America. So when I contacted you, when I saw 1010 is mental wellness year, month, or the day, and we say we do something, and to bring all our friends. We have a lot of friends all over in LinkedIn, in Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. But I think we need to bring all of them, and discuss this and see, hey, what we can do as a team, and to spread this. Like I go back to my explanation of how we got out of COVID, where medical professionals did an excellent job, pharmaceutical companies did an excellent job, but we did our part too to get out of it. we did our part to get out of that pandemic. That's a huge. And we need to do the same thing to get out of this pandemic of mental health, and by
Beautiful,
helping each other. Yeah,
beautifully.
those are my thoughts for my introduction, where I think we should be discussing. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Sugat. And you bring up some very important points. So communication starts with listening. Paul Tillich said it beautifully. The first act of love is to listen. And listening is not just with our ears, listening is with our heart.
True.
Because only 30% or less of the communication is verbal. So when 70% or more of the communication is nonverbal, if all we are doing is listening, we're not hearing, right? So because the first act of love is to listen, it's about being present, being in the moment and getting engaged and actually listening and processing. And empathy becomes a critical linchpin because you are listening by putting yourself in that other person's shoe, not standing where you are to be an expert to give them advice and don't listen to answer, right? So keeping that as our conversation starter, I would like for us to go around and keeping the theme of being willing to listen. Let's hear your thoughts on the importance of listening, the importance of empathy, and showing up in our whole being as ourselves to engage with each other, to hold space and take away the stigma of mental health and truly embrace one another to lift each other up. Go ahead, Susie, I see you ready.
Hi. I think, it's spot on, Cass, what you said about very often when somebody comes to you, it's not necessarily they want an advice. And I think the first step is putting yourself in that person's shoes. So rather than thinking about how am I going to respond to this, it's that empathy of how are you feeling? What are you going through? What does this mean to you? Being comfortable, and we often jump in because we feel we've got to say something straight away, and actually silence is okay. It's at what point do we say, let's just have a quiet space so we can formulate our thoughts, so we can think and feel and be present about what's actually going on. So I think that step about, getting into that person's shoes and trying to understand what they're going through is absolutely super critical. We've talked about this before. Having a tribe or your community around you, supporting you and being there for you, actually sort of, you don't have so many mental issues or challenges because they buffer you, they back you up, they give you the confidence to come and talk about things so it doesn't simmer and boil. And I think that's when it becomes bad, when you go into a downward spiral of thinking about it in your own mind and coming to conclusions that might not necessarily be the reality. So giving people space and just asking questions rather than jumping in to give your point of view, I think is a really great first step.
Thank you, Susie. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Tila.
Yeah, I guess, you get told over and over again, your anatomy is such, you've got one mouth in 2 years, so you've got to listen twice as much as you speak. But, I think, well, I'm guilty of not listening. I'm sure I could do better at it. Yeah, and I think as we're getting older, not necessarily because we're getting older, but it's a fantastic skill to be able to listen and put it into practice, whether it's at work or at home or, and I think we're all guilty of as what Sugat said before, the minute you can connect to something in your life about it, you jump in with that. And that's really not the whole idea. People want to share and they just want you to listen to what they have to say and then let them finish. And I think, I don't know whether it's our culture or our generation, we're very good at interrupting people when they talk. And I keep saying, you should just wait till they finish what they're saying and then say what we want to say. So it's a learning curve, and it's never too late to learn. So thank you for giving us this opportunity.
Beautifully said, Talia. And I was reading, because this is an area I am deeply passionate about, and as a leadership and communications coach, because I do business transformation strategies, it's important for people to listen to one another, or by the time we figure out something went wrong, it's too late, right? Because we need to aim 10 times before we pull the trigger from a business perspective. And what I keep running into is people wanting to speak because in their mind, they're thinking that they are showing the connectedness, but psychology shows that there is such a thing as conversational narcissist. That means every conversation has to be turned into something that is about me, and everything is about me. And knowing that, understanding that, and then flipping the switch to be consciously aware not to do that, that is the trick. Because when we do it without realizing, we have a growth edge and opportunity to change. But once we know, we have a responsibility not to do it. So I surface this as a way for us to be mindful. And what can we do to make sure we don't turn the conversation to us? It happened to me too. Oh, I know somebody, I know something, I know a solution. That's not it.
You know, Cass, I think there is also this challenge of we bring our assumptions into a conversation. So, and I don't know why it feels uncomfortable, but sometimes it's okay to just say, how can I help you? What do you want from me? Like, how can I be there for you? And then let them take the lead of what exactly they want, because otherwise we're going to think, oh, they've come to me for advice, or they want me to make them feel better, and they might just be looking for something entirely different. So actually having that space to say, I'd like to help, what can I do?
Mm-hmm. And so, do you want to expand on that with some examples? Because this is something you and I do for each other, right? We've known each other for more than 36 years. We're kind of high school buddies from India, even though neither of us are from India. And we've stayed with each other through all our life's challenges. And even when my husband, Mike, was going through cancer surgeries and I was dealing with the challenge alone, you called and asked me, what does help look like? And talk about what made you do what you did. Every day something came for Mike, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it helps that I know both of you all fairly well as well. But again, it's not making any assumptions. And, you know, you're in a different country, you have a different background from, you know, me. And so I was in the sense of our training. So from a medical perspective, I was thinking about all the things that I could do. But then what was relevant to what Mike needed the most? And that's where you as his partner was able to, you were able to provide me with the best possible suggestions that would benefit him, because it was not about me saying, I want to do these things for you. It was about how can I help Mike in a way that's most meaningful to him. And so that's where that conversation happened. I think that, you know, that in my heart, the best outcome was that he was as optimally well and you know, recuperating in the best possible way. So I think when it comes from a good place, you seek to get the best for that person. So just those questions of asking, what does it mean? What do you want? You know, what do you think he would appreciate? It helps to know people, but again, it's, you know, don't come from a place of assumption.
Yeah. And that's important. What does help look like and how can I be of service is always a wonderful question to ask. So that, go ahead. What do you want to add to this conversation?
Yeah, I mean, we have this, sometimes we call or we we call someone and they say, hey, I don't feel good. Can I call you next week? And that means they're not looking, right? I mean, then there are people who call you and say, I don't feel good. I want to talk to you. So we always have these two kinds of friends and families where some don't want to talk to you when they are in a different condition, and people want you to talk to you when they need to talk. And that's what I say. Sometimes it's too long or take too much of a time for you to Google and figure it out who is the therapist or who is available next. Try to make an appointment. People need to talk right there at that time. When they feel emotional, they need to talk to someone. They need someone to listen to you. And I think we all need to try to make us available at that time. Whoever, not everybody want to talk to you everything, and different people at different situations want to talk to you. And I have this definition: when someone talk to you, especially in business, some are called well-wishers. They just want to tell you, and some are mentors. So only if you think you are a mentor, we can advise, and if you are a well-wisher, just listen and just be a well-wisher. And you are not a mentor. You don't have the capacity to mentor even in business. There's somebody come and say, hey, I'm going to stop this. I'm going to have a startup. And if you go and tell an uncle who has nothing to do with startup, just listen and leave it. But if you think you are a mentor who has done 5 startups, you advise. And because the listening is at that time. I have this example. I used to travel, before pandemic. I'm a typical Monday to Thursday. I'm a weekend Singaporean. That's what people call me. A weekends I come. So I used to call my kids from my hotel. I feel guilty I'm not there, trying to ask them, hey, how was school? Okay, Papa. Is one word answer. I used to feel upset about it, why they are not answering. And until my cousin told me, hey, Sugat, when you are at home, when they come back from school, they will tell you what happened. They are not going to tell you at 7 p.m. when you call, when you want to talk to them. They are not going to tell you what happened in the school. But that kind of the real situation during pandemic when I stayed home is going to be 945 days since I took a flight. And now when I pick them up from school or when I'm at home, they will just open up and talk. So I think the reality is that we need to be available. So the only way that someone can talk to someone at the time they need, we need more people who are listening to us. We need more people. We can't wait for a medical help, or we can't wait for. I think that's a situation now when somebody think that, okay, there's a lot of awareness about mental health, but then we all think that if we want to come out of this condition, we need to Google and figure it out. Who is that person for a therapist or someone? And that itself is another stress. And finding someone, I think we need to openly talk and openly have ourselves available so that people can just talk to each other. Like I said, when you come to a pandemic level, the medical professionals or others, only a set of people can't help. We need to help each other, and we need to make sure that we are available and publicly tell them that, hey, we are available and I'm available. Come talk to me, have a cup of coffee with me, have a tea with me. It's okay, we don't have anything to talk. And I had a friend passing by a couple of weeks back from Singapore to, from Australia to India. And he said, I want to have a coffee with you. And he actually said that, hey, Sugat, I just wanted to see you. I was like rushing, like you might have more people to talk. He said, no, Sugat, I just wanted to meet you only in Singapore. And during that transition going from Australia to India, he just wanted to have that discussion. So I think we need to make ourselves available when the other person needs. Don't cut them off, and understand why they are calling. And I think we need to find a way to expand that and create a community around that. I think we have folks from different countries. We come from different cultures, different backgrounds, and live in different places. And and we should find a way to spread this message everywhere.
And that is such an important point you make, Sugat. If we show up in life in a way that we always make space and invite people in, then we are creating a situation where people are comfortable to come knowing that we are going to show up without judgment. And so are we building our life in a way that we are giving permission to people? Right? It is not a power of position or hierarchy in the family or hierarchy in that tribe. It is truly, who is that truly humanitarian, the empathetic, kind, compassionate person who will not judge me. And if we can all show up that way, then we are creating an entire community of people to choose from.
True.
And so how do we take away that pressure of they're going to judge me, or they're going to decide certain things about me, or they're going to gossip about me? Are we creating a psychologically safe space? And are we going to hold space for them? And are we going to love them unconditionally? And I mean love in the purest of sense, right? Love that is from one soul to another, regardless of what the outer wrappings look like. Can we show up that way? And that is the showing that is going to enable others to confidently come. So I can see, Susie, you want to say something? Go ahead.
You know me well. So I think this is the thing, right? Proactivity. Why do we wait? Why do we wait for people to reach out? And I think that was a great lesson that I took away from the pandemic. Rather than wait for the pandemic to stop, I have friends in Melbourne that I used to catch up with, you know, at least once every 3 months or so. And we couldn't for 2 years. So before that, we were like, you know, we really miss each other. Why don't we set up calls, say the first Saturday of every month? We actually cook our dinners. We sit down, we put the Zoom camera in front of us, and we have a chat as if we're actually sitting next to each other. So we didn't wait for the pandemic to finish. We said we're going to use technology the best possible way we can to make that connection. Another example I can give you is with my own family. My brother's in Malaysia. I hadn't seen them for such a long time. So whenever they were having a meal together in their house, I would say, okay, on Sunday lunch, I'm going to give you a call. And they're having a meal, and I just call and see the faces and say hello to everybody for 5 minutes, just to know I'm there. I want to see you, I'm here as well, and we're all okay. It just gave a space for people to, so I think that regularity of doing it, don't wait for something to happen. When you're in touch with somebody, even Cass with you, right? We call each other on a regular basis. So we don't wait for something bad to happen. You can actually tell when things are not going well, or when things, you know, somebody looks a bit down. And so you can pick up those vibes and open the space for them without having it go into a spiral of a really deep depression or anxiety or you know, problem for them. So I think that proactivity of being upfront with them, having that space and having that regular open-ended conversations, I think is really, really important.
Yes, and folks don't realize when somebody sends you a message to send 2 or 3 emojis, whether they're laughing or hearts or clapping or whatever, that ends the conversation. Don't do that.
True.
Right?
True. Yeah.
Those are supposed to be tools to add to the conversation to bring the 70% of the nonverbal in. It's not supposed to take the place of the verbal. And in a time where you cannot actually speak to one another directly and people reach out using technology, one of the big no-nos is don't send emojis. Please don't. Because
thank you for that advice. Yeah.
Is it to even say a word? So what are some of the other things you are seeing? How are you building the mental wellness and the emotional well-being with your families, with your communities? Because it's not just waiting for mental health issues to crop up. Wellness is physical, mental, and spiritual wellness. If we embrace all 3 of them together, then we are truly living a wellness lifestyle. And therefore, we don't need to go to a therapist after the fact.
True.
So I'm curious to see, Susie, other than us, we have other guests here who are participating. I would love to hear from somebody. Anuja, Siva, we see a Kanagaratnam. Anybody who wants to share, who feels comfortable? We're inviting you in.
Yeah, you don't have to on the video. You can just voice over if you prefer.
You have to unmute if you're speaking.
Hi, it's Ashwini. I just wanted to add to the conversation a little bit because I'm hearing some really great points. And I definitely agree that creating that space that's judgment-free and really open for people to have those honest conversations, especially in South Asian or Asian cultures, it's really important because we do have a lot of stigma that comes with that. And I also think in addition to being able to ask help from our friends, our family, our tribe, as you call it, we need to be more okay with asking for professional help as well, because like as much as your friends can help you when you're feeling down in that moment, in the long term, all those really negative emotions, the stress, the anxiety can have such a lasting impact on who you are as a person and how you can function even in the tribe itself. Like you might find yourself acting out in ways that you are uncharacteristic to your person. And so I think that's also really an important part of seeking out help.
Absolutely. And Ashwini, you are of the Gen Z generation and you all look at the world differently. You experience the world differently. And your parents are the straddle generation, right? They immigrated. You are born in, I guess you are technically a straddle generation too. You were born in Sri Lanka, raised in Canada. So how does that feel for you with the generational difference, being a straddle generation, your parents more rooted in the Sri Lankan tradition, you are more embracing Canadian tradition. How do you navigate that and still stay true to who you are for the sake of your mental, physical, and spiritual health?
I think we're really lucky that our parents are like kind of more open to our ideas, even if they are different from their own. But I noticed that like it is obviously going to be a lot of trial and error to try and figure out where it is my own morals and values are going to align with my parents' morals and values, and also the morals and values that I'm currently growing up with in a completely new culture. And like I said, I think it's just mainly trial and error. And as stressful as it is, because our parents are more open to it, they can kind of help us navigate it and have honest conversations. Like, for example, even something as simple as like going for a sleepover, at first glance, coming from like spending time with my friends or whatever, it can be like, okay, it's just a sleepover. It doesn't really mean anything if I go and hang out late into the night or whatever. But if I have that conversation with my parents, it's going to be like, oh, we're more concerned for your safety, etc. And they're very able to express those kinds of fears or anxieties that they may have that I, as a person that's growing up here, would not necessarily recognize because it's not something that I'm used to paying attention to. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Ashwini. Siva, any thoughts you want to add to that? You may be at work. Anything you want to say, Sugant?
Yeah, we started using the word tribe. We call ourselves come from one place and tribe, and one is happening with the social media now. All the, I mean, they're great. They started in a great way where that's how probably we got connected back also. A lot of our childhood friends, I know you, then we connected different social media. And that was good when it was like real people started connecting with real people socially, and we shared things, and that all looked good until it reached a place where the technology companies or the social media companies started putting into different tribes and based on your interest groups, and because they need to commercialize these whole connections, and they don't want Sugat and Kasturi to be just talking to each other. They want to influence us, who we should be talking to, what feeds we should be seeing. And that's kind of, in technically they say the way it's going with couple of the latest ones, I don't want to name them, which social media ones, are trying to create an interest-based tribes. That is not necessary that in another 5 to 10 years, there will be a tribe created just based on interest, because I saw something video of that, another video of that. Suddenly, everybody watching those videos become a group of people, and some are good, some are bad, and we got to be careful about creating these fake friends around
Mhm.
And we got to be careful.
Yeah, we can hear you, Sugat. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I think we got to be careful. It's going to be more intense, and we know that people say that if you have Instagram followers, and now when you go to some of the social media, you don't see your friends post anymore. What you see is somebody else want you to see, and you can't expect those people to be empathetic towards you. If you post something, they are going to respond with emotions, the emojis, or they are going to respond whatever they feel like at that time. So we got to be careful using some of the social media, and limit to only read. I generally don't go through the feeds. If I want to know about some person, I just check the profile. I go inside and read about the person and what he or she is doing. I don't want somebody else to influence what I should see. And it's going to get more intense, because if somebody with the same interest only, they can commercialize and sell stuff, and they want to put you into same one tribe, they want you to vote for someone, they're creating somebody just manipulating what you should be doing and what your interest should be, and you will just lose yourself if you get caught into that. So I think uh, and this is what, Kasturi, you call fake friends. You create friends. They are not real friends, they are fake friends, and you feel more connected to them sometimes, because you feel like that, hey, I have more things to talk to this person than my real friends, because looks like we have common interest. But that interest was created by someone else. It's not that you guys had a common interest. It's just somebody manipulated the data and the algorithm behind it and put you into a spot, and now trying to monetize you. So we're going to be very careful getting into these artificially created friends groups by someone, and so they're not going to be socially responsible. They created this, and if you start living in that world, you can never come out and come out to the real world.
And that's true, because technically they even not be people. They may be just bots, robotic personas created to socially engineer. So in the hacking world, in data preservation and business integrity, we talk about social engineering, right? This is social engineering consensus and radicalizing people and subverting societies into doing things that normally people wouldn't do, and being mindful of that is very important. And you bring up a good point. Those folks are not going to pick up the phone and ask you how you're feeling, or call in and have soup delivered when you're sick and nobody is there to bring you food because you have COVID, right? So be very mindful, as Sugat just said. There are friends, and then there are Facebook, in quotes, friends. They are just named friends, but they're really not your friends, right? And one of the things I want to bring up is research shows that having a sense of gratitude and embracing a life of gratitude is the single most valuable thing to train your brain chemistry to be positive. The positive chemistry it triggers in our brain and in our physical being is so beneficial in a holistic perspective. And people take drugs to get a high, to forget all their stress. Gratitude is known to have a high higher than cocaine without any of the side effects. Okay, so people tease me. It's like Cass is saying, don't take cocaine, take gratitude. Yes, that is what I'm advocating, right? But embracing a life of gratitude, and not just grateful for the good things, looking at all the bad things that happened, being grateful for them, to know what not to do, having the resilience to overcome those are also gratitude. And how do we embrace a lifestyle of gratitude to prevent us from getting into that mental depression? Because our mental health is in such a positive high that it doesn't revert to that negative. So Dr. Susie, what are your thoughts when you hear that?
I go back to what my mom taught me when I was young, is every night before you go to sleep, reflect on your day, reflect on the good and reflect on the bad. And now I take it a step further. I actually generate instances where I feel grateful for a lot of things. For example, the night before I plan my next day, and I actually plug into my day simple acts of kindness. Right? It might be saying something as simple. I don't, when I go to the supermarket, I actually don't like those self-serve counters. I actually tend to go to where there is a human being, because I want to smile at her. I read her name out on her label, on her name badge. And I actually say, thank you for the work that you're doing, or something nice to her. And without fail, every time I acknowledge her presence or his presence and say something, they look up and they beam, because, you know, hundreds of people have passed by this person and not even acknowledged that she's a human being, that she's performing a service. And so I look for opportunities like this to create kindness or to do something nice for other people, because the feeling I get when I see them smiling and when I see them joyful is just immeasurable. And then at night, when I close, just before I close my eyes and go to sleep, I'm reflecting on the day, and that feeling, I can physically feel that warmth, the flutter in my heart, you know, that joy. So I have so many things to be grateful for. Now that's the positive, but there's the other side of the difficult things that happen to us. And you can, you know, when I was younger, I'm like, why is this happening? What did I do to deserve it? And I think I've changed the narrative, right? How can you change the narrative to ask something different? This has happened. What can I learn from it? How can I become a better person for it? So you are changing your perspective of that thing. And in changing it, it doesn't become a bad thing anymore. It becomes something that I can learn from, and I become a better person. So how can you not be grateful for that when that is helping you to become something better than you were before? So that's, I think it's your outlook, how you look at things, and you know, how be purposeful about what you do every day, right? Are you exposing yourself to, you know, as Sugat said, media that doesn't serve you? Make that choiceful decision. This is what I want to do. And I tend to do it the night before. So I plan my day. Of course, things happen, but invariably, you know, I can at least fulfill 80% of those things that make you feel happy, joyful, and actually full, and you know, you've contributed to society in a way that's pretty remarkable as well.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing those real life examples, Sissy. So good.
Yeah, I think we have some great conversation. Thanks, Susila, for joining us. I just realized that you have the same last name with just one letter difference. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody in school used to think we were sisters, and then everybody assumes Susie is married to one of my brothers. It's like, no. Her dad is a Sri Lankan Malaysian. They both seem to, my father and her father just happen to have the same name, spelt a little bit in English, but same in Tamil.
Okay. Yeah. I think thanks for everyone. This is a great conversation. I think we should have more of this. We should have more sessions to discuss with more people, and we don't have to wait for a session like this. I think we should just pick up the phone and start talking to people, and that will really help. And yeah, really thanks for setting this up, Kasturi. Yeah.
I think Siva has something to say. Siva, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So I would just like to touch base on the current era that we are living in, and with all this virtual world, and how the COVID made us all into our silos. So when you talk about this empathy and caring for the other, one of the important things is we talk about acceptance and appreciation, right? But in the current world, you got to think about acceptance, appreciation from who? Is it the person whom you're doing the kind deed, or you just want to share in different media and say, hey, I did this, I gave so many food packets, here, see, I produced this for this guy, right? So that is something sometimes we get carried away with the current world. When you talk about a person who is empathetic, you need to also be empathetic in a way that you still make sure the person whom you have helped still maintains their dignity. So that is something that I really saw that was quite flawed. That's based on, again, where we need to think of where the acceptance and appreciation should come from. Is it, I'm happy with that gratitude, seeing that person's face and how much they have been brought out from the situation that they were going through, or to get more hits, more thumbs up, and more hand signs saying that, oh, you did this, you did this. So I think that's another internal feature or a faculty that people should see, that if they are going to be a good listener, a good empathetic person, that is again something that need to be kept in mind. And I think from coming from different cultural backgrounds, people are rewarded by different systems, as you mentioned. The gratitude makes a big difference in the way the hormones work. Yes. And if you would see, like most of the people around their fifth decade, sixth decade, they go on doing so much of social activities and philanthropic activities, because they have come to a stage in life now, they realize, okay, the true happiness is not all this what we have been gaining all these days. There is much more than this. If someone can really appreciate us from the bottom of the heart, saying that you did a good deed, that is what keeps us going. And just like what Susila said, it's small act of kindness are better than greatest good intention.
Very well said. Thank you, Siva. And yes, we cannot get true gratitude and empathy mixed up with self-promotion. They're completely two different things. And I know growing up, we used to call it monkey praising his own tail, right? So being conscious of that is important. It's good for somebody else to say thank you, but we shouldn't be the ones doing that. But that's different from calling people in and inviting them to engage to help. So there are multiple different ways social media is used, and the intentionality and the object of the purpose matters, and knowing the difference and not tooting our own horn, that is critical too. So as we bring this to a close, thank you so very much to everybody for joining. This has been a wonderful internationally based conversation with multi-generational thoughts. Ashwini, thank you for joining us and bringing a younger perspective into the conversation. Oh, Siva turned the camera on. Okay. I'll let your face be seen. Say something.
It was nice joining you all. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So we will make sure that we continue to have these conversations on topics that are relevant to us. And we will make sure that we continue to support the community and we expand the community in a meaningful way. And if any of you have areas of conversation, areas of exploration that is going to be meaningful, please let Sugat and I know. We will be happy to bring that forward. And we'll do it at a day and time that is conducive for everybody as well. But in honor of Mental Health Day, we chose today, the 10th of October, and we wish you all a beautifully joyful day and a wonderfully mentally health week ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.